Hello, I'm Rachel and I hope you're having a great day. Today I am making Mapo Tofu. The first thing I need to do is get my rice cooking. So Mapo Tofu, well, okay, let me state, this is my take on Mapo Tofu. This is far from an authentic recipe. I have a few different recipes that I use as inspiration, and then over the last year or two that I've been making it, I've modified it to meet my family's own taste preferences. So the great thing about a recipe like this is you can do that. Also, it is surprisingly quick to whip up. There's not a lot of food prep. You have scallions, garlic, and ginger is really the only things that you have to cut. And then everything else you just kind of cook together. And the turkey, I use turkey. This is actually, I think traditionally it's more of a pork-based dish, but we don't eat a lot of pork, and we didn't really like the flavor. It almost had a gamey kind of flavor. Even really good quality pork, just, I don't know. I like it sometimes, but on more of a regular basis, we prefer the turkey, and I actually like the texture of the turkey. So this is really good with a short grain rice, but we have jasmine. So 2 cups of jasmine rice. I rinse it very well, and then in for this rice cooker, I put, using the same cup measure, 2 cups of water plus 1/4 cup for the pot, and it cooks it up perfectly every time. So I'm gonna put that on to cook, and maybe I'll use that as my marker to see how quickly I'm able to whip this up. So the next thing I'm doing, I just need to clean off the ends. And these do seem to be a little bit dirty, these scallions. Another thing that I did, you can see back here, let me move that. This is the tofu drying off. So I use firm tofu. This is actually really good with a silken tofu. It adds a really nice, just creamy, smooth texture. Sometimes I'll do 1 pound of smooth and 1 pound of firm. Today I only have the 1 pound of firm because I ate the silken tofu for lunch. I had a taste for it, so I ate it. Not thinking about the fact that I could have used it tonight. Also, I really like the texture of the firm. I think some of my family does, and then some of them don't, or of the silken, sorry. So the firm tofu is definitely a preferred flavor all around. So when I make stuff, I tend to use the firm. All right, so this, you do use the dark and the light scallions separately. I'll cut a little bit more of the light. I'll separate this off and then I'll cut the dark. Looks like I'll be using this because I don't have any of my small bowls. They're all in the dishwasher. So what I do is, with the tofu, I boil it for about 5 minutes in salted water, and that helps to draw out more of the moisture from inside the tofu. It also helps to give it a slightly chewier texture. So some of my family are not a fan of the texture of tofu, and by doing that, they've actually been able to enjoy it more. I actually am one of those weird folks who I actually enjoy the taste and texture of tofu. I shouldn't say weird because around the world that is common, but here in the US, maybe a little bit less common. But I'm curious, do you like the taste and texture of tofu? Or is it something that you eat, you avoid? I don't eat a ton of it. We have it, sorry, that very loud noise is my dishwasher running. We have tofu probably a couple times a month. I have a couple of different things that I make with it. Okay, so that is most of the prep. The only thing left is grating ginger. And I like to do that onto a plate. That way I can keep all the juices and scrape them off into the pot too. This ginger, although it looks very pretty, I actually grate it with the skin on, and then the really tough skin tends to stay on the outside and I just pick it off. But I don't know, this ginger looks nice and plump, but it doesn't have a strong bite to it. I do a good bit. I don't really measure. It says, I think I do around, like, I don't know, that size section, like a large thumb worth of ginger. So I'm gonna do about 5 garlic cloves. You can definitely do less than this. We love garlic in this house. It is a favorite ingredient. Have my little, let's see, it mostly worked. This little thing really does work very well. But 2 things. Sometimes it works better if you cut the little tip, that little piece. I'm being a little bit lazy, but also I think these are getting a little bit older, so the skin is a little bit easier to remove. All right, sometimes, same here, you can chop this up, mince it by hand. We finally spent, I think, all of $18 on this garlic press, but now that we finally have it after years of having a really crappy one, I try to use it because it works. This one works really, really well. I can link it. We got it on Amazon, and it took a lot for me to commit. I do not like kitchen tools in general. I don't like a lot of them, and I will only use them if they work really well because I'm not going to waste space in my kitchen. So that last little bit. All right, there we go. All right, that is, so this and this I'm going to cook in oil before I put the pork or the turkey in there. So now I'm going to mix up the sauce. So for the sauce, and I am reading off of my recipe a little bit, but I will kind of follow this and put it into a recipe, which would be perfect because I have a tendency to not follow recipes. For this, I have my water. I'm going to add about a teaspoon, so that's 2/3 a cup of water. Pretty heavy teaspoon, I'll be honest. That's just my chicken bouillon. You can use chicken stock if you have it. I just never really have it. I'm going to do, I have fancy mirin. You can just use regular mirin. Mirin is a sweetened rice wine. This is just a really good quality one that I had looked up online, and it's really recommended for that flavor for something like this where you're going to taste it more. But you could just use a seasoned rice wine vinegar if that's what you have. The next thing, you want to use a miso paste, preferably red miso because that flavor is a little bit stronger. Less likely you have this, but if you do happen to have CBL soybean paste, that one I get at our Global Mart. That one also works. It's really just adding in that rich flavor. So we're doing a tablespoon of that. I would say that was probably shy of a tablespoon. Oops. It calls for oyster sauce. My husband is allergic to shellfish, so you can do 1 part sugar to 2 parts soy sauce, and that kind of replicates that sweet savory flavor of oyster sauce. All right, so that was specifically for the oyster sauce. Now I think I still need a little bit more, so I'm gonna do my own teaspoon. You can put your sesame seed oil in now. I will also say, if you're gonna really follow a more traditional method, you should heat it up separately on the stove and pour it in at the end. Oops. And then this gets 1/3 cup sake. Again, something you can skip. You can just replace it with more stock. That was exactly 1/3 a cup. I don't think I could have done that better. I get this on sale at my store, which is why I have such a huge thing of it. This is one of 2 dishes that I make that has it in it. so it lasts me quite a long time. I don't know why I had this out. I don't need fish sauce. I don't know why I had that. Fish sauce. Oh, and then 1 tablespoon potato starch. You can use cornstarch here as well. I do find that potato starch tends to hold up better in the fridge when it gets cold and then reheated compared to cornstarch, but use whatever you have. All right, I think my wok is ready, so I'm gonna bring you over there. Okay, I'm gonna use a little bit of sesame oil here. In a wok, you can do this in a large 12 to 14 inch skillet, or you can do it in the bottom of a larger saucepan or a stock pot. I wouldn't do it in like a saucepan like this. I would say is too small because you're not really going to be able to brown your meat and have things effectively in contact with the heat source. So really anything wide. I just like the fact that with the wok I can brown stuff, but then when I'm mixing it I have more room at the end to be able to mix it all together. I only want to cook that a little bit. I don't want it to get too much color. So I'm just going to cook this until it's fully cooked through, and then I'll come back for the rest of the steps. The last prep item I have to do is cutting up this tofu. Now again, this is firm tofu. You can handle it pretty easily, but it is also a little bit easier to handle because I pre-boiled it. I do cut this maybe a little bit smaller than would be recommended, but that's just so that the flavor of the sauce really gets in here, since not everyone in my family loves the flavor of tofu. I'm just going to put it back on that cloth because I can just use that cloth to dump it into the meat mixture later. Now, I'm just cutting it into cubes about that size. What is that? 1-inch cubes. The only other ingredient I didn't mention is any type of chili paste. I have this is the Italian Bomba hot sauce. It's Calabrian. It's a fermented Calabrian chili paste. I actually just keep this on hand for all dishes. You can use a sambal, really anything. I actually add a little bit. My kids will eat it if I do a little bit, and then I'll just add more for myself at the end. Okay, we've had that going. So now it's just a matter of adding in the sauce. We browned scallions, garlic, ginger, the turkey in this case, or pork if you prefer it. I'm just going to cook this for a minute or two, throw in the tofu, and let it cook for just a couple of minutes to let the tofu heat through, and then it's really just a matter of topping it with the scallions and it's done. Just dumping in the tofu. It's just a nice little bit of a glistening sauce. Maybe that's a little too much scallion, but hey, there's no such thing as too much scallion. You put that in after you've turned the heat off, so you cook the light green ones, and the dark green pieces you don't cook in, you just add them in at the end.